people who are able to advertise their services on social media. We also know that there are people who are currently transferred to doing things online because businesses are closed. Then another impact is that we are able to get updated information about the COVID-19. Before we even get the mainstream media, you find that information has already been updated on social media. And it's not just local information, but people can also get international information for that matter. Schools closed. Ever since the first case was announced in our country, all schools closed. But social media has offered an alternative platform for people to be able to continue learning. So that's, again, a positive impact of it. Connecting professionals. We know right now, doctors, even us, we are connected because of social media. We are able to exchange information. We are able to learn developments that are happening in our country and beyond. What are the things that are happening as far as addressing the issue of COVID-19 is concerned? Then promoting provision of services, which may not necessarily be business, like consultancy services and such kind of things. And for what many people who have been using is that it's been used as a tool of self-expression. Many people go to social media to talk about self, to disclose themselves. But then again, it also comes with its own disadvantages. It's again an avenue where lots of myths, misinformation, fake news are trickling around on what to do, what not to do, the numbers and such kind of things. Then we also know that it's an avenue for cyberbullying, and many people have been bullied through social media. Some cases that you find that people end into depression, and other unfortunate cases, people commit suicide. Then social media again has an avenue of overstimulating us with too much information. Through algorithmic social programming, whereby the sites that you visit, the kind of information that you search, they are able to pick on your interests. And every time you're flooded on information that is similar to what you're looking out for. So every time you're seeking information, and as a result, you get overstimulated, which you may end up feeling stressed and such kind of things. And that connects to triggering mental disorders and at times exacerbating it. Because of the uncertainty that is currently, or we are currently experiencing with the COVID-19 crisis, you find that we want to know what is going on. We want to know what is happening. And all the time we are seeking out information. Social media comes as an immediate avenue that we have to get that information. And it may create so much anxiety. And when we see videos of, professional nurses who are finding situations as helpless, that may trigger so much hopelessness and anxiety, and may push some people to depression and feeling that the situation may not change at the end of the day. Then there is also the aspect of leading to addiction, which is what we are focusing on today. I don't want to explain on that. And then perpetuation of stigma. We remember, I don't know whether it was true or not true, people have been saying and talking, when we had the very first case of people who have recovered from COVID-19, and we had them talking to the media, talking to the president about how their life had been from that. But then we saw people connected to bullying, and that is one of the ways, because we know that you have had COVID-19, it is an avenue that, we don't want to get near you. There is a possibility that we may get infected. In the psychologist group, I'm not saying that that can be an issue of stigma, but there is one of us who said that their neighbors were the Ministry of Health guys came for them in an ambulance. But then knowing that so-and-so could be having COVID-19, and people saying, hey, so-and-so, my neighbor had been, the people, Ministry of Health guys came with them with an ambulance. So that may lead to a sort of discrimination, and the other neighbors may not really want to engage with them. So those are some of the things to look at. Social media, it's a good thing for us, but then again, it also has its own disadvantages. So looking at social media addiction, I first want to look at addiction. What is the definition of the word addiction? And I want to borrow from the American Science of Addiction Medicine, which adopted this definition last year. And addiction can be seen as a primary chronic disease involving the brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry. When you're looking at it being primary, so it's the basic core of the problem that is there. Then chronic disease, meaning that there cannot be cure, but there can be management of it. Then of most important is that there is a reward that is happening in the brain. There is a certain motivation that is pushing someone to engage in the habit over and over again. And then there is the memory of it. If I log in onto my WhatsApp and every time I'm finding a funny meme, then it is going to register in my brain that there is a funny meme that I watch. So every time I want to log in into my WhatsApp again, there is an expectation of a reward of, I'm going to be able to laugh, ease of tension, and such kind of things. It can lead to relapse, progressive development, and the potential for fatality if not treated. So basically, this means that if someone has developed addiction, there's a possibility that you're going to go back. When you're looking at social media addiction, it's a behavioral addiction. Unlike substance addiction, where we tell people to stop using the substances. In a behavioral addiction, it may become a little bit difficult. It's like when you're looking at someone who may have an eating addiction and telling them to abstain from food. That may not happen. Well, it could be possible to abstain from social media, but looking at the age and time where we are, it may not be possible to abstain in totality. So that relapse, eventually leading to psychological problems, leading to emotional problems of the individual, which may further be exacerbated if someone has not been able to manage it. So as we look at addiction, we look at it from a point of affecting or being a brain disease, affecting our reward system. Many of us now are constantly being engaged in these Zoom meetings and all. Why is that the case? Because from the very first experience, we learned that these were helpful interactions. And that's why we have been able to go back again and again. So as we look at social media addiction, we want to tie it to that kind of definition. And looking at the ABCDE of addiction according to ASAM, American Society of Addiction Medicine, it's seen as an inability to consistently abstain. I know most of us sometimes may tell themselves they have spent so much time on Facebook, they have spent so much time on WhatsApp, so they will not be logging into their accounts. But before the end of the day, they can't resist and they go back to check on their accounts. Then also impairment in behavioral control. There's a lot of impulsivity in the sense that it's like you can't even think, you just find yourself doing it. Then there is the essence of craving or increased hunger for drugs or the rewarding experience. It's like you're feeling something pushing you, an urge that is pushing you to check on your social media platform. Then there is diminished recognition of significant problems with one's behavior and interpersonal relationships. Social media, in some cases, has broken families. Parents are complaining about the young ones or their teenagers spending so much on those kind of platforms. So, but the person who is using the social media may not necessarily realize the kind of problems they are landing themselves into as a result of using the same. Then dysfunctional emotional response, meaning that you're not able to control how you feel social media is one of the avenues that offers people validation, but at the same time, it can be one of the avenues that someone may become so bullied and so affected that their sense of value or their sense of self-esteem becomes affected. So they are not really able to balance their emotions. And as a result, any small things become a trigger. Someone becomes very angry, becomes very anxious, and such kind of things. So what activities are addictive that we need to look out for? These are the activities that give us pleasure or meet the needs, but change the persons in ways that reduce the propensity or ability to maintain motivational balance. They are the things that have a sense of rewarding. They are the things that change the motivation in our lives. They also may increase reliance on the addictive behavior as a source of reward or means of meeting particular needs. So this means the person becomes dependent on it. If you want to feel important, you post something on Facebook, and then that importance is going to be determined by the number of likes, by the number of comments that you receive. So you're relying on that to validate you. If you post something and nobody has commented on it or nobody has liked it, then the person may feel that may now, looking at the negative effects of social media, someone may end up feeling depressed. But then again, the increase in reliance of the addictive behavior being a source of rewards mean that it's only after you do it, then you will feel fulfilled. Then they may create unpleasant reactions when the activity is stopped. If someone was to go the whole day without their phones, even before we go to social media, if someone leaves their phone they are in a meeting somewhere and they are told they can't go with their phones for just 1 hour, there's someone who may feel so restless because they can't access their phone. That anxiety, that unsettlement because someone is not able to connect with their phone. So that unpleasant reaction could be a form of withdrawal. Then, of course, they create a habit, and a habit, you don't have to have a reason why you're doing it. Right now, our reason for logging in and using social media is because we are learning. But then there's a case whereby you just want to have your phone nearby. You just open WhatsApp. There's nothing in particular that you're checking, but you're just there looking. Then they create an acquired drive. An acquired drive meaning that it wasn't really there, but it's something that you have learned. So it's what is giving you a sense of motivation to do it over and over again. And with that, I think we can, just reflect and look at some of the behaviors that we know that can be addictive. Anyone? Besides social media.
Okay, you can unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Hello, yes, go ahead.
My name is Moshiri.
Yes, Moshiri.
Another behavior would be cyber. Cyber.
Okay, cyber. Catherine, you can hear?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Moshiri.
Hi, Catherine.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Good. My behavior. There is addiction for shopping.
Yes. Shopping addiction, and this, who are the victims of shopping addiction mostly? Is it men or women?
Women.
All right. Another kind of addiction.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, another kind of addiction is of food. For example, nuts. There are some people who are always eating nuts because they are addicted to them. They can't live without eating nuts. Thank you.
Addiction to nuts. It's like there is an oral fixation. Someone just have to keep on eating something, and specifically this is nuts.
Okay, another addiction is, this is Vespa's addiction, sex addiction.
Sex addiction, pornography. And
Yes.
at this point in time, because of anxiety, isolation, and privacy, there are many people who now, it's like there's a relapse of such kind of addiction. I can see someone who has said addiction to gossip. And in one of my conversations, someone was saying that men are dangerous gossipers than women. Subject to debate, but let's not delve on that. I can see someone else talking about gambling addiction. All those are behavioral addictions which do not really involve substances, like we can say drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and so on. So looking at social media addiction, this is a behavioral or a process addiction that is characterized by being overly concerned about social media, driven by uncontrollable urge to log on to or use social media, and investing a lot of time and effort to social media such that it impairs other important life areas. Like we have previously looked at what are the habits that are addictive. Social media addiction, from this definition, more or less meets such kind of thing. There is someone being overly concerned about it, what is happening, wanting to get updated, then that uncontrollable urge. When we look at general addiction, if you're to just to digress a bit and talk about substance addiction, for it to be defined it as an addiction and being a brain disease, we look at, a sense of loss of control. And I like giving an example of, does one choose to have malaria? Or can someone say that I don't want to have malaria, and they are able to keep that in check, that they will never ever have malaria? So that drive of uncontrollable urge to log on to social media or to log on to such kind of platform is an indication that someone does not have a sense of control. And then so much time than the planned time someone spends on it. Someone may just say that they are going to send to someone a message, but then again they end up spending an hour or 2 hours checking around social media. So why is it easy to get addicted to social media during the COVID-19 time? Naturally, human beings are social creatures. And because we are currently isolated, there is that need for social compensation, which is triggered by our own need of a sense of belonging. So because of most of the social media networks are able to connect us with other people around the world, so that is making it possible for people developing some form of social media addiction during this time. Then the other thing, reason why it can be easy to get addicted at this time is because of the fear of missing out phenomenon. Someone thinks that there is something new that has been posted, there is new information that has come up, so somebody doesn't want to miss out. And social media has bottomless, information. So because of that, someone will constantly want to check. So what has happened? Has Mutai announced anything? If they haven't, has he given any update? If they weren't able to get into their TV and such kind of things. Then another reason is gratification, ego gratification, and need for satisfaction, social media identity gratification. Going back to the theories that we have learned, connecting to the theory of psychoanalysis and transactional analysis, there is a need to fulfill that ego, to kind of identify a sense of worthiness for who we are. If you post a comment, if you post a status, like I had said, how many likes do you get if you make a tweet, how many tweets and retweets do you get? How often does your information get shared to other people? A phenomenon, I would want to call it, make it go viral kind of a phenomenon. So people may want to gratify their sense of, importance on that. Then also another reason as to why it's easy to get addicted to social media, it's because it is an avenue to express and actualize through the display of personal information. According to Livingstone, this was a study that was done on adolescents and the reasons as to why they get or they can get addicted to social media. When you look at relationships between adolescents and adult people, in most cases in their life, they are a population that gets so misunderstood. And because they are easily misunderstood, social media came and created, according to this plan, according to this study, came and created them an opportunity to express themselves freely. And that was, if at home somebody is not understanding what you're saying, but you have an opportunity to talk about yourself without being criticized, then that can lead to social media addiction, especially at this time. Another reason why it is easy to get addicted to social media, and this now touches on the brain, the disease aspect of it, is because it activates the brain reward circuits. Studies that were done by Harvard in the year 2011 on the issue of self-disclosure and social media addiction, they showed that when people self-disclose, there was an associated increase in activation of that brain region that creates reward, the mesolimbic dopamine system. When you're talking about the reward pathway, when you eat a nice meal and you enjoy it, activities like eating, activities like sex, they activate the reward pathway. So self-disclosure, according to this study, indicated that people brain, the reward pathway got activated. This reward pathway consists of 3 areas. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for judgment, decision making, sense of control. We said that in addiction, people really lack sense of control. Then we have the nucleus accumbens. The nucleus accumbens, they reinforce the reward that we experience. And then we also have the ventral tegmental area, which again also reinforces the reward. So this activation is greater when there is an audience. The brain gets rewired through positive reinforcement. Again, going back to behavioral theories, we know a behavior is constantly repeated when there is reinforcement of it. If you post something and you get 1 million views, then there is a positive reinforcement which will trigger you to go tomorrow and post again and again, which triggers this area of our brain. So this may be the hijacking bit of social media of our brain. Other reason as to why people can easily get addicted to social media at this particular time is because of entertainment, enjoyment, and pleasure. Pardon me, nothing. If you look at some of the kind of memes that people share at this particular time on social media, then it can also be addictive because it's a pastime. We don't have things that we are doing right now. We have so much time on our hands. We can't visit relatives. We cannot engage in recreational activities. So social media comes in as a pastime activity, and boredom can be an entry point to people becoming addicted to it. Then a sense of egocentrism, me, there is selfishness in it. If you check on Facebook, it asks what's on your mind right now. So there's that element of it's about me. So because it's about me and given unlimited time to talk about me, then that may increase the possibility of people being addicted to it. Then another reason as to why people may become addicted to social media, this is just a screenshot that I took from my Facebook account when I talked about the algorithmic social media programming. How many of us remember about the Cambridge Analytica? Do we know about it? Hello? Hello?
I've never heard of it.
Kate.
Nobody has ever, yes?
This was
No, we have.
This was the media group of people who are able to manipulate a lot of people in the world, and they were especially used a lot during the American elections and the Kenya elections, the last Kenya elections.
Yes.
Or rather they use data. They use data to influence people's behavior.
Exactly. So when you're looking at many of the social media platforms, they are able to trace what kind of information you're looking for. So because of that, because they have learned your habits, they reinforce them, they tailor content to you. And that means that every time you log in onto your social media account, you'll be directed to things that are of interest to you. So you may not have planned to spend so much time on social media, but because that information has been put right in front of your face, then what do? You log in, you try to find out more information about the same. Right now, many people are finding out information about the COVID, about the developments. So if that is what you have been seeking out, when you go to social media, you will find information that is redirecting you to the same. And as a result, you find yourself spending too much time than you had intended, and to some degree ending up taking away your sense of control on the same. If you Google something and you go to your Facebook account, you will find adverts on the same of what you have been looking at in Google. So because of that, that may make it easy for people to get addicted. Then, as I had said earlier, why it is easy to get addicted at this time, because there's so much information that you cannot exhaust it. And having bottomless information, and especially if that is what you are seeking, you know, if it comes to entertainment, if it comes to learning, if it comes, you know, to issues of posting pictures and such kind of things, when we're talking about things like Instagram, then someone is easily able to spend so much time than they had earlier intended. Then again, why it is easy to get addicted to social media is because it's an avenue for learning, especially at this time, being the alternative form of learning. I had seen someone who had done a message, it's possible to get addicted to Zoom at this time, in Zoom and mental health. Very true. So because it's providing a learning opportunity, then people may end up spending so much time, and before they know it, social media takes over other things that are important in their life. How do you know that your social media usage is problematic? One is when you're using it as a coping mechanism. When social media is your way of relieving stress, when it is your way of dealing with anxiety, your way of getting away, it's your way of dealing with your depression or loneliness, because it is providing a sense of reward that someone may not experience in real life. So when it's a coping mechanism, then social media can be seen as being problematic. Then because of that, continuous usage as it is replacing real life experiences that are not met, then it is going to affect the person's life, which again now even perpetuates the problem, making the person use social media more and more as a way of relieving their mood state, resulting into social media dependency. You can't do anything until you have logged in into social media, feeling like you have missed on to something. Another reason also why we can look at our social media usage being problematic, if it is the only avenue that we get validation. If it is out of the likes that we get, out of the comments that we get when we have posted pictures, when you have posted statuses, that is how we get to have our sense of self-esteem or sense of worthiness increased, then there is already a problem with your social media usage. What is supposed to happen is that we are supposed to let social media work for us and not the other way around. Not social media, we are supposed to make it work for us, but not letting it control us. Now, looking at the signs of social network or media addiction, what is the criteria? One of the criteria is neglect of personal life, our work, our school, and other responsibilities. At this moment in time, because we all have to work from home and because of the anxiety and the uncertainty that is happening around, it may be difficult to concentrate into our day-to-day responsibilities continuously like we would have otherwise done it. But then if we realize that, if you look at that meme of a child still taking a bath, but then again the mother is still on Facebook, then it's a neglect of one's responsibility. Then conflict of interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships. You go to bed at night, let me give a husband and a wife scenario, and when you're there, maybe you want to have a conversation, but one is so busy in their social media account, and the partner or the other person is complaining about it. So that becomes a problem. It's an indicator that your social media use is a problem. Then again, when you start, questioning your sense of worth, when you start becoming agitated by what people are posting on social media, when you become when you become very restless, you're not able to define who you are in terms of the interpersonal relationship with yourself, then already that is showing that you could be having a social media problem. Then mental preoccupation with using social media, either behaviorally, thinking about it constantly, then also being emotionally preoccupied with your social media usage. It is taking your thinking, your eating and drinking social media. If that is happening, then that could be an indicator that you're using social media too much. Then mood modifying experiences, that if you want to have a laugh, you cannot create that laughter within your house. What you're going to do is going to check on social media to check whether there is something that can make you happy when you're logging in, for you to alter the way you're currently feeling. Then there is the element of tolerance. When you started using social media, you only would spend 30 minutes on the same, but then again, that 30 minutes becomes not enough. You start using 1 hour, 2 hours, and such kind of things, meaning that the amount of time that you were spending on social media before was not good enough for you. Then another indication that you could be having, another criteria that you could be having social media addiction is that when you're concealing your addiction, when you're lying to others about how much time you spend on social media. Like right now when you're having teenagers and they are in their room, and then when you're calling them, what are you doing? Oh, sorry, I was doing homework. But then again, they were busy on their social media accounts. When you have to lie about it, then it's an indication that there is a problem. Then there is the issue of withdrawal. When you start experiencing unpleasant physical and emotional symptoms, when social media is stopped, restricted, when you start having anxiety, when you start becoming agitated, when you start, feeling angry and restless, because you cannot access your social media. It's just like an alcoholic who will start shaking, having tremors because they haven't drunk. So for you, if you haven't used your social media platform, you start feeling anxious, you start feeling very restless. It's like there's something you're missing out, there's something that you want to have. Then of course, relapse. You have sworn to your friend, you've sworn to your colleague that you'd actually even deactivate your account. But then again, in a situation like this, when you're not doing much, then you find yourself going back to using whatever social media platform that is useful for you. Then self-isolation, when you don't engage, you don't socially relate with other people in the family, you're spending so much time on your phone, you're spending so much time on the social media platform, that's such that you've withdrawn from your family and friends. And then also losing interest in activities that were once found enjoyable. Right now, most of us are at home. Maybe if you're a lady or a gentleman and used to enjoy baking cakes and that kind of things, here's a good time to be doing that. But then again, at this moment, if you don't even have the interest to do that or other activities that were enjoyable for you, taking a walk and exercising, then that may mean that over spending time on social media, then that may mean that you could be addicted to social media. And that, before we look at ways of managing addiction, I've just seen that we can have an extension of our time. Are there any questions or other criteria that we can add that can be an indicator that we have an addiction to social media? Helen, over to you.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm internalizing what you're saying, and I'm thinking, I think I'm concerned about my social media usage. I'm careful about the word addiction before I come to see you for help. But because at the moment we have to, I think so, use social media to get information, get updates. And as a result of that, for me, I was actually very few times on social media, but now I'm constantly on social media. So is it possible to actually avoid being on social media given the current scenario we are in? Yes. Unmute, Catherine, unmute yourself.
The question would be, what exactly is it that you're doing there? Is it of benefit to you? Are there other things that are important that you're neglecting over the use of social media?
Okay.
If the answer is no, then it may not be a problematic social media use. But if there are other important things that you need to do and you're spending so much time on the different platforms, then like you've said, maybe you may start questioning yourself, is it really an addiction, or is it a problem social media use, or is it just the circumstances? And also like with the other addictions, when things are available, when the circumstances allow, then there is an increased possibility for someone becoming addicted. When you start, because it's a process, when you start, you don't tell yourself that I'm using all these media platforms so that I get addicted. You say that I'm using this so that I can be able to meet need A, need B, need C. But then it may become so much, or the usage may become so much that at the end of the day, you really are not using it because of the reasons that you started to use it before, but you're using it because you're feeling like you have to.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Catherine. Anybody else with a comment or a question?
But at the end of the presentation, I will just give you like some form of a screening, just questions to ask ourselves whether we are addicted to social media. So depending on the answers that you will give, then that could be a good indicator on whether you have a social media problem or not.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
All right. So what are some of the ways that ourselves we have used to manage social media addiction?
I'm seeing somebody called Lincoln has raised up his hand, has put up his hand.
Yes.
He's gone. Yeah, he's there.
Yes, Lincoln. Go ahead.
Hello. Are you able to hear?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Wow. Excellent. Thank you very much for that presentation. Let me ask you, right now life is completely disrupted.
Yes.
And I probably may be using social media as a way of coping with this janga iko hapa. Is from your research, which you seem to have done quite well,
yes.
How much time could I be spending on social media to determine that I'm addicted or not? Particular period.
Quite not a one size fits all answer, because the question could be, what exactly are you doing on social media? If you're just doing spending your time on social media to find updates, to connect with friends, and then you're ignoring other activities that or other responsibilities around you that you're supposed to be doing, then we can say that there is a problem. If you have been on social media from 8 until 6 in the evening, then we may say that there is actually a problem. When you're on social media and you forget to eat, then that could be a problem. So I don't want to say that it is this particular much time that we can say that you have a problem on social media, but rather it is entwined to other things. Like that time you're spending on social media, of what benefit is it deriving to you? Are there other things that are being neglected? Are people complaining about the time that you're spending on social media? Because if people are complaining, then it's a problem. Are you experiencing some sense of unpleasant feeling when you don't get into your social media, or when you're not on social media? Then at that time we can say that your social media use is a problem. So I can't say that this is the much time that you need to look at and say that you have a social media problem. I would want to look at it from a point of what exactly are you doing there, and what other things that are important to you that are being ignored to indicate that there is a problem. And are you having withdrawal, or are you having the need to use more and more, or spend more and more time on it? If that happens, then we can look at it as you could be developing addiction if you've not had it already.
All right, thank you very much. For me, I'm using it to run away from the threat. Mostly, the threat out there for me is much bigger. And most of the things I'm supposed to be doing, normal things, I'm not able to do because of the same threat. So maybe I'm using social media as an anchor to keep me sane.
As a coping mechanism, as an alternative.
Yes, to the threat.
To the threat.
Thank you.
All right. Any other person?
I'll say.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm a little bit amused, and the conversation is very interesting. But you could be, to my colleague was just spoken, you could be running away from COVID situation, which is out there, but you could also be causing a problem to the members of your family. And that's what the speaker is trying to say. To what extent are you involved in the social media that is affecting the other members, and your responsibility? Today, we have a new phenomenon where we are all focused at home. So at home, it does not mean that for you, your activities are just out there. The house has every space for all of us to what extent are you contributing to the well-being of the people inside the house? So engaging in social media just as a coping mechanism may also result in something else, and that is the addiction. The adage, the traditional adage that we are always used to is that doing something too much is dangerous. So when we look at addiction, whether it is reading, whether it is work in the office, whether it is the social media attention, whatever it is, as long as we do it to the extent that it overrides other responsibilities and there's no balance in our life, then that is a problem. So the balancing effect is core. The psychological effect, the extent to which we engage in those other activities, ends up affecting our psychological well-being. Therefore, certain adrenaline runs down our nerves when we feel anxiety, when we don't even have the phone, and you stop behaving normally, in a normal circumstances that you are just supposed to behave when, for example, you forgot your phone at home, or you forgot your phone in the office when you've gone for a meeting. You feel like you are craving for something, then that is a problem. Addiction comes in. So again, I think we need to be careful when we are talking about that we are just coping, we are running away from the problem, and such kind of things. That's why I was amused. But thank you. It was lovely.
So maybe I need your help because probably now I never worked in the house. I'm one of these people who have never spent time in the house. I have no work in the house. From a gender perspective, everybody else is busy with their own things. Unless I learn how to work in the house, which I spent only 2 hours before, then I might want to see one of you.
All right. Thank you for that kind of awareness that you have gotten. And it's a new time for all of us. For majority of us, we are not used to working from home. We're not used to spending time, in the house and feeling that we are doing nothing. But just like you said that, learning to be in the house, meaning that there is a possibility that we can learn other behaviors or other activities that we can engage ourselves other than social media. Maybe to continue with the presentation, we can continue this conversation with you and see how we can be able to help you later, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right. So some of the general ways of managing social anxiety, managing social media addiction, is manage notifications. Turn off the notifications, because if you have your notifications on, it's like they are prompting you to check on what kind of message or what is going on, what activity is going on at that particular time on your device. In this case, just let the social media work for you and not the other way around. Set your social media applications to see certain posts first. Like I had said, because many of the developers of this social media are able to identify what our needs are or what are the things that are of interest to us, then they can feed us with so many things that we forget of what is important that we needed to see first. So when you go to the sets of the many apps, we can just configure what is it that we want to see first, who are the people that we want to see first when you log in some platforms like Facebook, for instance. Another thing is conducting a social media audit. Asking yourself, how much time do you spend on social media? How often do you post? If you're spending the whole day on social media, forgoing other things, people complaining about it being a form of reward of your functionality for the day, then that is an indication that there is a problem with your social media usage. In most of the phones that we have, you can be able to set time of how much you're going to be online, and that can control or can help you manage how much time you spend on it. Then tracking the time that you spend on certain apps. When you track the time, then it can help you know which social media platforms you're spending so much time on, and that may take you back to a point of questioning yourself. So I'm spending so much time on WhatsApp. What benefits am I deriving from there? What is the need that is taking me to spend so much time on WhatsApp? Is it the right way to meet that needs, or are there other ways in which I can be able to meet such kind of needs? Then set boundaries, have a non-screen time. And this may not just be on social media alone, but spend time that you spend on these electronic devices. Like during dinner, set boundaries with everyone in the family and say that when I'm having a meal, I'm not going to be near the phone. I remember there's a time I had agreed with my children that every time we had no phone day. After every 2 days, when I get home, there was not going to be phone, there was not going to be TV. And they used to keep me accountable when they see me checking something and I'm telling them I need to return a call. And they would remind me, Mom, you say that it's not a phone day today, so don't call that person. So that kind of boundaries can help us on determining the amount or dictating the amount of time that we spend on our phone screens. Then leave the phone in a different room when going to sleep. One of I may not have been in the criteria that I've given, but you may find that as a result of social media addiction, someone may be presenting with insomnia. They can't sleep. It's 3 a.m., it's 4 a.m., it's 1 a.m. Someone is still online. Because they went to their rooms with their phone, and because of that impulsivity that I talked about earlier, they cannot keep themselves off social media. So one of the way of managing is don't go with the phone to your room, to your bedroom. Leave it in a different room so that you don't get the temptation of checking what is going on. Then because currently we're using social media to get updates of what is happening, to be more informed, we can change from that. Maybe decide to get updates from the mainstream media, from televisions. And once we have that, we don't focus on our, social or our electronic devices. Then also tied to that is that we can make a choice of uninstalling some of the apps, especially once we have done an audit and we realize that we're spending so much time on a certain application and there's nothing beneficial that you're getting from it. You can make a decision to uninstall that and find an alternative of how the need that used to take you there can be met. Of course, an alternative which is not another social media platform. Then having an accountability buddy, someone to keep you in check, like I've mentioned, with my children. They're the ones who would keep me in check and tell me that it's no phone time, so you're not supposed to have it. Just like we look at addiction, and when we say that recovery is supported by peers and allies, the same case with social media. When you want to detangle ourselves from the traps of social media, you can have someone else, a colleague, a family member, a friend, to help you keep yourself in check. And if some of these things do not work, then you may need to get specialized treatment for social media addiction, whereby they will be able to apply various approaches, which is basically what we do when you're working with people with behavioral addictions, and at the same time looking at people, working with people who have addiction to substance use disorder. Any question at that point or more input?
Yes, Catherine, I'm seeing a very good feedback interactions on the platform.
Yes.
And I've liked the idea of even having your children, having family members help you, keep you accountable. That one is very easily doable, and they'll definitely remind you, this is a bit too much. You said this, you promised to do this. That's a very applicable way of having accountability around you during this particular season.
All right, thank you for that, Helen. Yes, it works, and especially when you tell, for me especially when you tell children, they are very quick and to remind you, you said. So you can't go back on your words. And also because of the fact that they are expecting you to model behavior for them. All right, I can go on.
Yes.
Any other
Catherine?
practical? Yes.
I just want to add that this presentation has really given me insight, and I confess I've been having challenges with my children.
Yes.
But from this presentation, I now know how to give them support and how to guide them, and also to be their accountability.
I think we have lost Lillian.
Can you
Sorry,
hear me?
I think we have lost you.
Can you hear me now? I think there's an issue with my net. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear. Yes.
I was just telling Catherine that I'm very grateful for the presentation.
Yes.
I confess that I've been having a challenge with my children when it comes to the social media, but with the lessons that I'm carrying home today, I know what to do, and I'll ensure that I'll be their accountability buddy. I know I'll get challenges there, but being their mother, I know the survival tactics on how to go about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Good to hear from you. I can see a hand up of Elewa Ulevi. Susan, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Catherine. As I'm listening to your presentation, I'm realizing most of the young people, especially teenagers and young adults, are actually addicted to the social media. This is based on even when you're interacting with them, even in a therapeutic setup, where they come in and you're supposed to be having a session with them and they are still on their phone. And they find it very difficult to put off their phone. I've also realized, like, when you meet them for whatever session you're having, the phone is always on and it's always on them. And they seem to be like obsessed if the battery is going off, and they'll do anything to fast charge their phone. So as much as we're talking about children, there's this group of young people and teenagers who, from your presentation, they are obviously addicted to social media. So I'm just wondering, how can we help them to know what you are teaching us so that they may understand that it's not normal for them to be overly on social media constantly? Just this week, I've met a 15-year-old boy who is not showering, he's not eating food, he's constantly on the phone, and the mother thought even like the boy was more sick, like he has a mental health problem or something, only to realize that he's seriously addicted to it and he's constantly on it, to a point that now he's using mirror to keep him alert so that he doesn't have to sleep and miss out on social media. So I think we really need to put it out there for the young people more so that they can be able to realize that they're getting themselves into something that they might not be able to get out. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you so much, Susan, and good to hear from you again. Yeah, I think for the young people, there's a lot of things that are happening on social media. And, you know, being people who their brains are not fully developed, it's being driven by their emotional brain. And there is immediate reward that they are getting from social media. They are able to express themselves. They are able, you know, to talk to different people. So that's why you find that they are easily becoming a population that is getting affected by social media. And, you know, when you're looking at addiction from a disease perspective, if it has moved to that point, then we may need to look at not just the management that you're talking here, but a form of specialized treatment where you can journey with the person. What are the needs that are being unmet? What are the self-esteem issues? What are the identity issues that these, you know, young teenagers are having to deal with? Are there problems at home that you're trying to run away from? You know, one of the participants has said that they are wanting, you know, it's like finding an anchor on social media. So it's now when people go in for specialized treatment, which is what you do on a day-to-day basis, Susan, that you can help them overcome social media addiction and other kinds of problems which may be connected to social media. I want us to look at some questions that we can ask ourselves whether we are addicted to social media. And I think that may ask so many questions. I've seen people from the presentation saying that from here they feel that they are addicted to social media. So here are some 6 questions that you can ask yourselves so that you check whether you have a social media addiction or not. And the first one is, do you spend a lot of time thinking about social media or planning to use social media? If you answered yes, then let's see what holds on next. Do you feel urges to use social media more and more? So if there's that urge, it's like looking at craving for people who are addicted to substances. If there's that urge, then that's another question that you can ask yourself to check whether you have social media problem. Do you use social media to forget about personal problems? Is it an escape? Is it a coping mechanism? Like I said, because if it's a coping mechanism, then it has a way of becoming or increasing the possibility of you getting addicted to it. Have you tried to reduce your social media usage without success? Do you have an inability, or have you been unable to stop using your social media platform, the different social media platform? You know, as we look at the diagnostic criteria for people with substance use disorder, we say that someone has tried to stop, but they have failed. So the same case, you've tried to reduce your social media usage. If you check, the word is to reduce, because at this point, some of the platform, we look at them and they're like necessary evil. But you've tried to reduce without success. Do you become restless or troubled if unable to use social media? Is social media negatively affecting your work, relationship, or studies? And of course, if you've answered yes to 3 of those, then there is a possibility that you are developing or you have developed social media addiction. I want to take a pause there and get any reaction if there is any.
My name is Vespas.
Yes, Vespas, go ahead.
I wanted to respond on what you talked about, the boundaries in your previous slide.
Yes.
And I was looking at most of the time that these things are catching up as in terms of media. I'm looking at setting boundaries on screen time and during dinner time. This is an issue concerning poor time management. Because poor time management and you're having unplanned schedules, then you become a person who is can be overtaken by events without even knowing that events are taking you, because you haven't scheduled your time that I'll do this from this time, I'll do this from this time, I'll do this. Remember in Ecclesiastes where we talk about there's time for everything. There's a time to sleep, there's a time to walk, there's a time to laugh, etc. So it juggles all about time management. That is my thought.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, time management, very important. Any other reaction? Have we gotten our scores from those questions? Is it a worrying one or are we in a safe zone?
I think, Catherine, if I can contribute, for me, I think I'm scared. Yes. And I'm thinking by the end of the time we are done with the stay-at-home order, if I'm not careful, it's going to be something else, undoing what I have learned to do to cope with this period, with this time. Yes, my answers were yes, I think for all of them, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So I think there's
on a light note, you need to book for a session.
I think I will book one immediately after this on Zoom.
Yes.
So I think this is good because it has made us know that going forward, however much time we'll have away from our normal routines, we need to be able to be very aware and to monitor our social media usage.
Yes.
Okay.
Very true. It's when you're looking at social media being a behavioral addiction, it comes into an element of management. And I like what Vespas has said. It's an issue of time. How do you manage your time? Because if you don't plan, then social media is going to plan for you. All right, so with that, I think I've been able to look at what I intended to talk about today, because the focus was just on signs that one is getting addicted to social media. But then again, under the signs, you also find that there are the causing factors. There is the treatment bit of the same, which it's not what we focused on. And in connected to social media addiction at this particular time, there are other behavioral addictions that are going to come up, and also some disorders that people have. Like for those people who may be having eating disorders, then this could be a time that eating disorders or a relapse to the same, because you cannot stop them from eating entirely. And you find that having so much time in your house, there was a meme that I think I saw somewhere. It's just 11 and someone has gone to the fridge almost 10 times. And they go there to check and there's still nothing, but nonetheless, they still go there, meaning that many people will be eating. And that may result to development of, eating addiction. There are people who may also start developing, addiction to pornography. Why? Because they are isolated, they have the privacy, and like in the office, maybe if that's what they were watching, they don't not worried about people checking on their screens what is displayed there. And here, having the sense of privacy, that may also be escalating, which is what people may need to be watching out for. Things like sex addiction may also be developing, because again of the essence of a way of dealing with anxiety, a way of dealing with stress, being isolated and such kind of things. So in addition to other mental disorders that may develop, behavioral addictions and also addiction to substances is bound to probably escalate, and there is need to respond to that. So having said that, I don't know whether there is any final reactions. If you need training on addiction, you can get in touch with me. We train at diploma level, certificate level, and also prepare people for international certification. So if you're interested, get in touch with me.
How do we get in touch with you, Catherine?